So welcome back to Chapter 7. We're going to talk about Learning Objective 2. Now that we've talked about all of the non-fund taxes that we have to pay and we have to withhold from our employees' paycheck, let's talk about a payroll register and our employees' payroll earnings records. So we have two different things that we need to keep track of, two primary records that we need to keep track of payroll information on. One is a worksheet that we can call a payroll register. It's going to show all of the payroll information for all of our employees for an entire pay period. So if we pay every 2 weeks, we'll have a new worksheet every 2 weeks. Then we have the employee's earnings record. This is by employee to show how much money they've made, what their gross pay is, as well as what all of their withholdings are for the entire year, for their entire history. So the payroll register is going to include for every employee what their gross earnings were, how much withholdings they had, taxes, their net pay, their taxable earnings, cumulative earnings, and then wage expense for that pay period. So here we can see the payroll register. We've got every employee listed out there. We've got whether they're married or single and how many allowances they get. We've got their prior earnings year to date. For Catherine and Julia, who are salaried, we've got their salary for this period only. Notice this is just for this one period, October 13th through 26th. For our hourly employees, we've got listed how many hours they worked, what their regular rate is, and that total amount of pay. For their overtime hours, we've got that listed multiplied by their rate to give us their overtime pay. So then all of that added together gives us their gross pay, and then we update their earnings to date column. But now notice in the second table, we also have the taxable earnings there for Social Security and food and SUTA. Remember, there are limits for Social Security of 137 something, and then for food and SUTA there are also limits. So we've got there the taxable earnings, how much earnings they have that are tax based. We've got their federal income tax, that's the FIT column, so that's the amount that we need to withhold based on the federal government. We've got their state income tax withholdings, that's the SIT column. We've got the Social Security and Medicare withholdings, medical insurance, and net pay. Then we've got the check number for where we wrote each of them a check. We are going to charge it based on what they do. Since we're a travel agency, we're going to call everybody except for Catherine, who's apparently the administrator, the supervisor. She's going to go to administrative expense, and then we've got everybody else there. Amounts are being charged to travel scheduling expense and then administrative expense. Normally we would see these two columns just called wage and salary expense. We'd kind of lump everybody together, but again, if we want to break it down based on how much are we paying for travel scheduling versus how much are we paying for administrators, we can certainly choose to split those into two separate columns or accounts. So the employee earnings record is going to be for one employee. So for example, this is just for Stephanie, and it's going to show for every pay period. So you can see the pay periods going down the left. How many hours did she work? How many regular hours? How much overtime did she work? What's her regular rate? What's her overtime rate? Add those together, get the gross rate. FIT is federal income taxes withheld. SIT is state income taxes withheld, OASDI, Social Security, Medicare, then we have the medical insurance. So we take the gross pay minus all of these deductions, and that gives us the net pay. We're going to write down what check number we wrote to her and then update her earnings to date.